Everyone called her ugly. When I told her you're beautiful, she froze. The trade station drifted at the edge of a blue star, its metal rings glowing with traffic lights and warning beacons. Ships from dozens of worlds docked there every cycle. Voices of many species filled the halls. Merchants shouted prices. Pilots argued over fuel. Guards watched from high platforms. In this crowded place, she tried to stay unseen. Her name was Lurie. On her world, her kind had once been valued for their sharp minds and steady hands. But times had changed. Beauty had become a cruel rule across the galaxy. Smooth skin, bright symmetry, and glowing colors were praised. Lurie had none of those. Her skin was rough and pale. One eye sat slightly lower than the other. Her face carried lines from an illness she had survived as a child. People noticed those things first, and often only those things. They whispered when she passed. Some did not whisper at all. "Ugly," a trader muttered as she walked by with a crate of tools. "She should stay in the back," another voice said, loud enough for her to hear. Lurie kept her head down. She had learned long ago that reacting only made it worse. Words could not hurt her as much as hope could. Hope had failed her too many times. She worked in a narrow repair bay near the lower ring of the station. The place smelled of oil and hot metal. Broken devices filled the shelves. Most were old systems that newer engineers refused to touch. Lurie liked them. Old machines were honest. If you listened carefully, they told you what was wrong. She was fixing a damaged power regulator when the lights flickered. The low hum of the station shifted, deep and uneven. Lurie paused. She placed her hand on the floor and felt a faint vibration that did not belong. "That's not good," she whispered to herself. Around her, warning tones began to sound. A voice echoed through the station in several languages, announcing a system's failure in the upper docking ring. Traffic froze, doors sealed. Panic rose like heat. Lurie wiped her hands and moved quickly. She checked the local console and frowned. The main power flow was unstable. Something was pulling energy in short, sharp bursts. Most engineers would wait for orders. Lurie did not. She followed the signal path through maintenance corridors that few used anymore. She knew these paths because she was often sent where no one else wanted to go. She reached a junction near Dock 7. Sparks fell from an open panel. A human stood there, tools spread around him, his sleeves rolled up. He was taller than her, with dark hair and tired eyes. He looked focused, not afraid. "You shouldn't be here," Lurie said, surprised at her own voice. He looked up. "Same to you," he replied calmly. "You work maintenance?" "Yes," she said. "The surge is coming from this section. If you reroute like that, you'll overload the backup coils." He studied her for a moment, then looked back at the panel. "That explains the feedback. I was wondering why the readings didn't match." He shifted aside to give her space without thinking about it. Lurie noticed. Most did not make room for her. She leaned in and adjusted a connector, then tapped the console. The vibration eased, the lights steadied. "There," she said. "Temporary fix, it won't hold long." The human nodded. "Good catch, I'm Elias." "Lurie," she replied. They worked in silence for a few minutes, passing tools, checking lines. He did not stare at her face. He watched her hands and followed her instructions without question. When the immediate danger passed, the station voice announced partial stability. Traffic would resume soon. Lurie began packing her tools. "Wait," Elias said. "You saw that problem faster than anyone else. How?" She shrugged. "Old systems behave differently. They leave patterns." "That's impressive," he said. She froze for a brief second, then continued moving. Compliments about skill were rare but not unheard of. She could handle those. Elias hesitated, then spoke again, softer. "You know, you're beautiful." The words landed between them like a dropped tool. Lurie stopped completely. Her hands trembled, her thoughts scattered. For a moment, the noise of the station faded, replaced by a rushing sound in her ears. No one had ever said that to her. Not like this. Not without laughter. Not without cruelty hidden behind it. She turned slowly. "What did you say?" she asked, unsure if she wanted to hear it again. "I said you're beautiful," Elias repeated, his voice steady. "I mean it." Her chest tightened. Her first instinct was anger. Her second was fear. Was this a joke, a test? Humans were strange, but they could still be cruel. "You shouldn't mock me," she said quietly. "I'm not," he replied at once. "I don't joke about things that matter." She searched his face for signs of deception. She found none. He looked at her as if the words were simple truth. Around them, a pair of alien dock workers paused. One snorted. "Humans have no taste," he said. Another laughed. "They'll praise anything." Lurie felt the familiar shame rise, sharp and heavy. She took a step back. Elias turned toward the voices. "That's enough," he said. His tone was calm but firm. "She just helped save this dock, show some respect." The workers muttered and walked away. Lurie stared at the floor. "You didn't have to do that." "Yes, I did," Elias said, "and I'd do it again." She did not know what to say. Words failed her. She nodded once and left quickly, her heart pounding. All through the rest of the cycle, she replayed the moment in her mind. The way he had looked at her, the certainty in his voice. It made no sense, and yet it would not leave her. The next day, the station called for all engineers to assist with a full system check. Lurie reported to the main control bay. The room was crowded. Many eyes turned toward her with annoyance. A senior technician frowned. "Why is she here?" "Because I asked for her," Elias said, stepping forward. "She understands the old grid better than anyone." Some protested, but time was short. The station needed every advantage. As they worked, a deeper problem emerged. A hidden fault ran through the core network, something installed long ago and forgotten. It could cause a full collapse if triggered again. Lurie traced the fault quietly, her fingers moving with confidence. She saw connections others missed. When she spoke, the room fell silent. "If we isolate this loop and reroute through the lower ring, we can stabilize the system," she said. "That section is outdated," someone argued. "It won't handle the load." "It will," she replied. "It was built stronger than you think." Elias supported her plan. Against their doubts, the command agreed. The fix worked. The station steadied fully. Cheers broke out. For a brief moment, Lurie stood in the center of the room, unsure where to look. Some avoided her gaze. Others looked at her with something new, not kindness but respect. Later, as the crowd thinned, Elias approached her again. "You did great," he said. She took a breath. "Why did you say what you said yesterday?" she asked. He considered the question. "Because I saw you," he answered. "Not what others say you are, what you are." She nodded slowly. Something inside her shifted, small but real. The galaxy had not changed. People would still whisper. But one human had spoken a truth she could not forget. For the first time in many cycles, Lurie walked back to her repair bay with her head a little higher. The days after the station crisis felt different for Lurie, even though the walls and lights remained the same. People still passed her in the corridors, still spoke in many languages, still hurried with their own worries. Yet something unseen had shifted. She could feel it in the pauses, in the glances that lingered a second longer than before. Not all of those glances were kind. Whispers followed her again, but now they carried confusion instead of pure mockery. "That's her," someone said near the market ring. "The one the human praised. She thinks she's special now," another replied. Lurie kept walking. Her steps were steady, but inside her thoughts tangled. Elias' words stayed with her like a quiet echo. "You're beautiful." She had tried to forget them, but they returned in quiet moments, unwanted and irresistible. In the repair bay, she focused on her work. Machines made sense. They followed rules. People did not. A message flashed on her console. "Engineering support requested in Dock 12. Lurie sighed and gathered her tools. Dock 12 was known for impatient captains and broken tempers. When she arrived, Elias was already there, standing beside a damaged cargo hauler. He smiled when he saw her. "Glad you came," he said. "This ship's power balance is a mess." She nodded and knelt near the open panel. As they worked, she noticed eyes on them. A group of alien engineers stood nearby, arms crossed, watching closely. One of them, tall and smooth-skinned, spoke loudly. "Funny how humans choose favorites." Elias ignored him and handed Lurie a tool. "Check the stabilizers," he said. She did, then frowned. "They were altered on purpose," she said quietly. That caught attention. The alien engineer stepped closer. "You're accusing someone of sabotage?" "I'm stating a fact," Lurie replied. Her voice stayed calm. "These adjustments don't match standard configurations." Elias backed her immediately. "She's right, this wasn't an accident." The captain of the ship arrived, irritated. "I don't care who's right," he snapped. "Fix it." They did, quickly and cleanly. When the ship powered up without a flicker, the captain left without thanks. The alien engineer scoffed. "Luck," he said. "She got lucky." Elias turned to him. "No," he said. "She got ignored long enough to learn what the rest of you never bothered to." That earned laughter from some, silence from others. Later, in a quieter corridor, Lurie stopped walking. "You keep defending me," she said. "Why?" Elias thought for a moment. "Because it's easy to defend what's true," he said. "And because the way people treat you is wrong." She looked away. "You don't understand," she said softly. "This isn't new. I've lived like this my whole life." "I know," he said. "That's why it matters." Her chest felt tight again. She changed the subject. "Why did you come to this station?" Elias smiled faintly. "I was assigned to observe alien infrastructure. Humans want to learn. Old systems like these fascinate us." "You value old things," she said. "Yes," he replied, "and overlooked ones." That night's cycle, the station held a public review of the recent failures. Engineers and leaders gathered in a wide chamber. Lurie stood at the back, hoping to disappear, but Elias spoke up. "Lurie should explain what she found," he said. All eyes turned to her. The station overseer hesitated. "Is that necessary?" "Yes," Elias said firmly. "She understands the system better than anyone here." Murmurs spread. Lurie's hands trembled, but she stepped forward. She explained the hidden fault, the outdated pathways, the reason the lower ring held strength others dismissed. Some listened. Others looked bored or annoyed. When she finished, silence followed. The overseer cleared his throat. "We will consider this information." That was it. No praise, no thanks. Outside the chamber, a small group confronted Elias. "You're causing trouble," one said. "You uplift someone who doesn't belong in leadership." Elias crossed his arms. "Belonging isn't decided by appearance," he replied, "or by tradition." Another sneered. "Humans think they know better than the galaxy." Elias met their gaze. "We do know one thing," he said. "Potential is everywhere. You just refuse to see it." They walked away, shaking their heads. That night, Lurie sat alone in her bay, staring at her reflection in a dark screen. For once, she did not immediately look away. She studied the lines, the uneven eye, the scars. She still saw what others saw, but now she also remembered Elias' voice. Calm, certain. The next cycle, trouble returned. A minor explosion rocked the lower ring. Alarms blared. Emergency lights flashed red. Lurie ran without waiting for orders. Elias followed. They reached the source quickly. A power conduit had ruptured. Heat filled the corridor. Automatic systems failed to respond. "This section was scheduled for replacement," an officer shouted. "It's unstable." "It's strong," Lurie corrected. "It just needs guidance." She moved closer, ignoring the heat, rerouting flows manually. Elias shielded her with his body when sparks flew. "Fall back," someone yelled. "No," Elias said. "She's got this." With careful movements, Lurie stabilized the conduit. The alarm slowed, then stopped. Silence fell again. This time it felt heavier. The officer stared at her. "You saved the lower ring." Lurie nodded, exhausted. "It was never weak," she said. "Just misunderstood." Words spread fast, not praise, but awareness. People began to notice her presence instead of avoiding it. Some still mocked. Others stayed distant, but fewer spoke openly against her. Elias watched quietly. He did not push. He knew change took time. Later, they stood near a viewport, watching ships come and go. "You don't have to stay," Lurie said. "People will turn on you." Elias smiled slightly. "They already have," he said, "but that's fine." She hesitated. "Your words, they changed something in me," she admitted. "I don't know if I deserve that." He looked at her seriously. "You deserve to be seen," he said. "What you do with that is up to you." As he walked away, Lurie felt something unfamiliar settle inside her. Not confidence, not pride, possibility. The galaxy had not accepted her, not yet. But for the first time, it had begun to listen. The calm did not last long. In a place like the trade station, calm was only a pause before the next storm. 3 cycles after the lower ring incident, unfamiliar ships appeared on the edge of sensor range. They did not request docking clearance. They did not respond to signals. They moved slowly like hunters circling prey. The station went into alert mode. Security teams rushed to their posts. Merchants sealed their shops. Travelers crowded into safe zones, fear rising in waves. Lurie stood in her repair bay when the alarms began. The sound cut deep, sharp, and urgent. She felt the vibration in the floor again, stronger than before. "This isn't just a fault," she whispered. "This is planned." Elias arrived moments later, breathing hard. "Long-range scans confirm it," he said. "It's the car syndicate." Lurie's hands went cold. The car were known across several systems. They did not conquer with armies. They broke stations quietly, stole what they wanted, and left wreckage behind. They relied on sabotage, not force. "They'll hit the core systems," Lurie said at once, "not the defenses." "That's what Command is afraid of," Elias replied, "but they don't know where to start." Lurie did. She ran. Elias followed without question. They moved through maintenance corridors, ignoring shouted orders behind them. Sparks already fell from overhead panels. Systems were failing in patterns Lurie recognized with growing dread. "They mapped the station," she said while running. They know which parts everyone ignores. Like the lower ring, Elia said. And worse, she answered, the forgotten grid beneath it. They reached a sealed hatch marked as decommissioned. Dust coated the controls. No one had used this path in years. Lurie opened it with shaking hands. Inside, the air was stale. Old cables lined the walls like veins. Lights flickered weakly, struggling to stay alive. This place shouldn't even work, Elias said. But it does, Lurie replied, because it was built to survive. A violent tremor shook the corridor. Somewhere above, something exploded. They've already started, Elias said. Lurie moved fast, checking panels, rerouting power by instinct. Her mind felt clear, sharp, alive. This was what she understood. This was where she belonged. Suddenly, a message came through Elias' communicator. Command demanded they return. The Overseer's voice was tense, almost desperate. We're losing control of the station, the Overseer said. Multiple failures, shields down in several sections. Lurie took a deep breath. If they try to patch it from above, the station will tear itself apart, she said. Elias didn't hesitate. Then we don't wait for permission. They reached the core junction of the old grid. A massive, ancient control node sat there, humming softly. It was never meant to handle modern energy loads, yet it still held. Lurie placed her hands on the console. They're draining power in pulses, she said, trying to force a cascade failure. Can we stop it? Elias asked. Yes, she said, but it's risky. Tell me. If I reverse the flow through this grid, I can trap the surge, she explained. But if I miscalculate, the backlash will hit this section first. Elias looked around at the narrow corridor, the fragile walls. You'd be right in the middle of it. She nodded. Then I stay with you, he said. No, she said firmly. You'll be a distraction, he smiled faintly. Then I'll be very quiet. Another explosion shook the station, this one closer. Lurie started the reroute. Energy surged through the old cables. The lights flared bright white, then dimmed. The console screamed warnings. Her hands moved faster. She ignored the heat, the pain, the fear clawing at her chest. Above them, panic spread. The station's leaders argued. Security teams reported failures. Many believed the station was lost. Then the surge slowed. The vibrations softened. Across the station, systems stabilized one by one. What just happened? The Overseer demanded over open channels. Elias activated his communicator. Lurie happened, he said simply. Silence followed. The car ships seemed to hesitate. Their sabotage failed to trigger the collapse they expected. Confused, they moved closer, preparing for a different approach. But the station was no longer helpless. With power stabilized, shields came back online. Defense arrays activated. The car ships retreated, unwilling to face a prepared target. Cheers erupted across the station. In the old grid corridor, Lurie collapsed to her knees, exhausted. Elias caught her before she fell. You did it, he said, awe in his voice. She laughed weakly. The station did it, she replied. I just listened. Medical teams arrived quickly. For once, no one ignored her. No one looked past her. They escorted her and Elias to the main chamber. The Overseer stood waiting. Leaders, engineers, and guards filled the room. The atmosphere was tense, heavy with realization. The Overseer spoke first. You disobeyed direct orders. Elias opened his mouth, but Lurie stepped forward. Yes, she said. We did. Murmurs spread. But if we hadn't, she continued, this station would be drifting wreckage right now. She explained what the car had done, how they used prejudice and neglect as weapons, how ignoring old systems almost destroyed them all. As she spoke, the room grew quiet. You all trusted what looked strong, she said, and ignored what didn't look perfect. That nearly ended us. The Overseer lowered his head slightly. You saved thousands of lives, he admitted. Others nodded reluctantly. From that moment, something changed. Lurie was no longer sent away. She was asked to stay, to advise, to lead repair efforts. Some still resisted, some still whispered. But they could not deny what she had done. News spread beyond the station. Stories traveled fast through trade routes. Not exaggerated tales of beauty or romance, but of a forgotten engineer who saw strength where others saw flaws, and of the human who stood beside her. Later, in a quiet observation deck, Lurie stared at the stars. They'll talk, she said. They'll twist the story. They always do, Elias replied. She looked at her reflection in the glass again. This time she did not search for flaws. I used to think being ignored kept me safe, she said, but it almost destroyed everything. Elias nodded. The galaxy is learning something new, he said. Because of you, she shook her head slowly. Because of what humans believe, he smiled. Because of what humans see. Far away, the car syndicate would rethink their methods. The station would rebuild stronger than before. And Lurie, once unseen, now stood at the center of something far bigger than herself. The galaxy had tried to break her. Instead, it had revealed her strength. The trade station did not return to normal after the attack. It changed. Repairs continued for many cycles. Walls were rebuilt, systems replaced, and corridors cleaned, but the feeling among the people was different. The station no longer felt like a place that simply survived. It felt like a place that had learned. Lurie felt the change most clearly. She no longer worked alone in the narrow repair bay at the lower ring. Now she stood in open engineering halls, surrounded by teams who waited for her input. When she spoke, people listened. Some did so with respect, others with hesitation, but none ignored her. That alone felt unreal. She still looked the same, her face had not changed, her scars remained. The uneven eye was still there, but when people looked at her now, they saw something else first. They saw the one who saved the station. Elias watched it happen quietly. He did not push her forward or speak for her anymore. He did not need to. She had found her own voice. One cycle later, a council ship arrived. It was larger than most trade vessels, marked with the symbols of the Galactic Infrastructure Authority. Its arrival caused tension across the station. Inspections followed. Questions were asked. Reports were reviewed. Lurie was called to speak before the council. She stood in the chamber where powerful beings sat in a wide circle. Species from many worlds observed her closely. Some had already heard the story, others looked doubtful. "You were responsible for stabilizing an outdated system during a coordinated attack," one counselor said. "Is that correct?" "Yes," Lurie replied. "You acted without approval," another added. "Yes," she said again. A murmur moved through the chamber. "And you believe this approach should be adopted elsewhere?" a third asked. Lurie paused. She took a breath. "I believe ignoring what looks imperfect is dangerous," she said simply. "Old systems, old people, forgotten workers. They hold knowledge others don't." Silence followed. One counselor leaned forward. "And humans encourage this thinking." Lurie glanced briefly toward Elias, who stood at the edge of the room. "A human reminded me that worth is not decided by appearance," she said. That changed everything. The council dismissed her soon after. No judgment was given, but later that cycle, orders came through. Lurie was appointed lead advisor for legacy infrastructure across multiple stations. The announcement stunned many. "She doesn't fit the image," some protested. "She's not a leader type," others whispered, but the decision stood. The galaxy did not change overnight. Prejudice did not vanish, but something cracked. Stations began reviewing forgotten systems. Engineers were reassigned based on skill instead of status. Humans gained a new reputation, not just as innovators or explorers, but as people who challenged silent cruelty with simple truth. Elias received new assignments as well. Human Command requested his return. His work was finished. The night before his departure, he found Lurie standing at the same viewport where they had spoken before. "The council ship leaves at first light," he said. She nodded. "I know." They stood in silence, watching stars drift past. "You'll do well without me," he said. "I already am," she replied, then hesitated. "But thank you." "For what?" he asked. "For seeing me," she said. He smiled gently. That was the easy part. When the council ship departed, many gathered to watch. Lurie stood among them, her hands folded, her posture calm. She did not wave. She did not need to. Time passed. Lurie traveled between stations, guiding repairs, teaching others how to listen to systems instead of forcing them. She spoke openly about what had nearly destroyed the trade station. "Neglect is more dangerous than weakness," she told them. Some listened, some resisted, but the stories spread. On one distant station, a young alien engineer approached her after a briefing. "They call me broken," the engineer said quietly. Lurie looked at them and smiled. "Then they are missing something important." Word of that moment spread too. Years later, humans became known across the stars for a strange habit. They praised what others dismissed. They partnered with the overlooked. They challenged old standards without anger or violence. Other species found it unsettling and inspiring. Lurie never called herself beautiful. She did not need to. But when she passed reflective surfaces now, she no longer felt the urge to turn away. She had learned something deeper. Beauty was not symmetry. It was not approval. It was being seen and standing anyway. The galaxy remembered her not as the one they once mocked, but as the one who proved them wrong. And it all began with one human voice, calm and honest, speaking truth into a place where none had existed before. Humanity did not conquer the galaxy that day.